Hello, in this short video we are going to discuss the geometry dock in CONVERGE Studio. The geometry dock is used to prepare, repair, and manipulate your geometry. From the dock you can also assign boundaries, set up ceiling, and create inlaid meshes. The geometry dock will be located on the left side of your screen, and by default it's turned on. However, you can turn it on and off by going to the View tab and clicking Geometry Dock. Generally, the geometry dock is separated into two halves. In the top half, you'll find your operations and actions you can complete. This is the part you'll be interacting with the most. And the bottom half of the geometry dock shows the input method and the specific entities you have selected to complete the action on. So if I click a couple triangles here, you can see that they'll pop up in the selection window. One thing to be aware of is that oftentimes the bottom half may be hidden, and as a reminder there'll be a orange rectangle here to remind you to readjust your window size. Now let's go through some of the things you can do in the geometry dock. You can also find these operations underneath the geometry tab as well. First, we'll go over the repair operations. As the name suggests, this is where you'll go to repair portions of the surface by deleting and manipulating the surface triangles that make up your geometry. There are several repair actions you can take, and we'll briefly go through each one. First, you can delete selected entities from your geometry with the Delete tool. Simply select a couple of entities, these can be triangles, vertices, edges, whatever, that you want, and click Apply, so you can see they're deleted. To undo any action, delete or any others listed here, go to Edit and click Undo. You can also hit Ctrl-Z. Next, with the stitch action, you can combine two vertices into a single vertex or combine two edges into a single edge. This can be useful for combining vertices that are redundant or in very close proximity to one another. When selecting the vertices or edges you want to stitch together, you'll have to be mindful in the order you make your selection. The first vertex will be stitched to the second vertex, as we can see here. Moving on, you can use the Align action to reposition vertices in order to align them with vertices on another portion of the surface. This is particularly useful when working with triangles that are connected with two parallel edge sections, such as we have here with the piston head and the top of the cylinder. The patch action is useful to create triangles to close holes in your surface. When selecting the area you want to patch, it is best to choose the open edge option from above to easily select the open edge. Next, use the compress action to eliminate redundant vertices. Essentially, this will combine selected vertices that are closer together than the tolerance you input. And lastly, there's the surface tab. There are a couple of things you can do from this tab, such as coarsen the surface to eliminate triangles from unnecessarily refined boundaries, or you can easily configure periodic boundaries via the periodic boundaries option. Or you can use one of the many other healing options to repair your problem triangles. To find out more about each one of these healing options and the other actions discussed, please go to the CONVERGE Studio manual. Next, we'll move on to the Create operations. From here, you can generate new elements on your surface. For example, you can create surface triangle, edges, vertices, and simple geometric shapes such as a sphere or cylinder. The Create triangle, edge, and vertice actions each provide a couple methods to generate its entity. For example, you can create a triangle from 3 points by sweeping edges, both normally and helically, and lastly, by lofting between edges. Additionally, from the Create menu, you can make a copy of an existing piece of geometry with Copy, or you can use Projection action to move or copy vertices in a specified direction and project them on a boundary. As you can see here, you can project this edge onto this cylinder. Lastly, you can create a new local coordinate system by using the coordinate action. This is especially helpful with the setup of injectors and fixed embeddings. All right, now we'll move on to the measure operations. As the name suggests, here we are able to measure certain aspects of the geometry, such as its volume or length of an edge. Each measurement you take will be printed to the message log at the bottom of the screen. Here we can see the maximum and minimum area of the selected triangles. Additionally, you can store many of the measurements to the coordinate cache to use in your case setup. Specifically, with location, you'll be able to measure and store coordinates based on a selection of average location, geometry center, center of mass, and the center of a 3-vertex arc. With direction, you'll be able to measure and store values of a unit direction vector derived from a portion of the geometry, such as 2 points, a surface triangle's normal unit vector, or the normal unit vector of an arc defined by 3 vertices. With distance, you'll be able to measure various distances in your geometry, such as the distance between 2 points, the length of an edge, the perimeter of selected triangles, and lastly, the distance between a vertex and a triangle. With the area and volume measurements, you can get the area or volume of a surface or a portion of that surface. And lastly, with angle, you can measure the angle between 2 edges. Now we'll continue with the seal operation. With this operation, you can configure seals to remove gaps between close objects and control the flow from one part of the domain to the other. This process is quite involved and out of the scope for this video, so please watch our training video on sealing for more information or refer to the CONVERGE Studio manual. Moving on, we'll talk about the transform operations you can complete on your geometry. From here, you can translate, rotate, or scale the surface or portions of the surface. With mirror, you can move or copy your entire surface or portion of your geometry to its mirrored position across the plane of your choice. Using the normal action, you can reorient a surface triangle's normal to ensure that they are pointing towards the fluid. With this button on the left-hand side, the normal toggle, you can easily see the direction the normals are pointing, in this case, towards the interior. Lastly, with coordinates, you can move or copy parts of your geometry from one place to an equivalent position in a different coordinate system. Remember, you can create your own coordinate systems from the create operation in the geometry dock. Next, let's talk about the boundary operations. From here, you can create or delete boundaries and assign triangles to specific boundaries with the flag operation. This step is really important for your simulation, as these are the boundaries that you'll be applying boundary conditions to. To flag the triangles, simply click on the triangles you want to flag, then click on the boundary you want to flag them to, and then hit apply. You see they have all been assigned to this swirl air boundary. We'll undo that. And additionally, you can place or remove fences, which are temporary borders, with the fence action. Fences in combination with the by boundary fence selection method makes it really easy to select certain entities on your geometry. This is helpful for both flagging portions of your surface to the boundaries, as well as selecting entities for all the previous actions we've talked about in this video. To indicate that there's a fence, the edge that makes the fence will turn white, like the one we see here on the back end of this turbine. And with the find clean action, you can place or remove fences at portions of the surface based on the angle between adjacent cells. So you can see with an input of 150 degrees, we can easily place fences at all the positions that the cross section changes. And just as easily by clicking clean, we can remove them. Now we arrive at the final operation of our geometry dock, the mesh operation. This is where you go to remesh your surface, generate geometric shapes to configure non-Cartesian boundary layers and inlaid meshes, and construct reduced 1D representations of 3D geometries. Using the surface action, you can generate new triangulation or quadrangulation of an existing surface. With the wrapper action, repair a surface with a large amount of defects by wrapping it with a new, higher quality surface based on your specifications. The next two actions, shaped mesh and extrusion, provide ways to create inlaid mesh. The shaped mesh action will create an inlaid mesh with a specific shape, while the extrusion action will make an inlaid mesh that is extruded from a selected portion of the geometry. To learn more about the inlaid mesh process, take a look at the inlaid mesh training on the Convergent Science Hub. Lastly, with the 1D setup action, you can build a reduced 1D model of a 3D system. This is useful for enabling application of reduced order models to simulate quasi-1D systems, such as a 3D pipe system in which the axial length of the flow channels are much greater than the cross sections. All right, that brings us to the end of our tour of the geometry dock. For more details on the geometry dock in CONVERGE Studio, please refer to our in-depth training materials and our user manuals on the Convergent Science Hub. Thank you for watching.